Hi y'all, welcome back to Mike Peace Woodturning. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's often overlooked, but it's important to your health, and that's dust collection. In this video I want to cover some of the basics of dust collection that's relevant to anyone getting into woodworking, general woodworking, but I want to especially focus on you beginning woodturners. You've got a lathe, you've got some carbide tools, or perhaps you've got conventional tools and a sharpening system, and you started that woodturning journey. You've been spraying money out of the wood-turning fire hose. Now that you've started, you're starting to think a little bit about how you can keep from breathing all that fine dust. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize that breathing fine dust particles is going to be hazardous to your health. I did a video a couple of years ago on toxic wood. I'll have a clip above if you want to watch that. But let me show you a brief clip from that video. From an article published by AAW, David Ramsey, Phoenix area segmented turner and retired healthcare executive, provides this. I turned for 4 or 5 years and only occasionally wore a mask. Now I have asthma from breathing wood dust. Bad situation. I pay for those days for 3 days if I even get a puff of sawdust in the nose. I recommend moving as much air as you can when you sand. Take good care of your lungs. So your risks are allergies, but also cancer and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, more commonly known as COPD. Your risk factors include what kind of dust you're being exposed to, such as the species that are noted to cause specific allergic reactions. Whether or not you have compromising health conditions such as a history of smoking or allergies, and how much time do you spend in the shop creating and breathing dust. So that's a quick review of the risks. So what's the solution? I think of dust collection a little bit like a three-legged stool. There's 3 components. The first component is your personal protective equipment. Could be as simple as something like this Dust Be Gone mask. It's fairly easy to wear. It's inexpensive and washable, but you know, how effective is it? I can't give you a definitive answer, but I can tell you if you don't do anything, you're going to be in trouble. It could be as simple maybe as wearing an N95 mask, and we've all gotten used to these over the past few years, haven't we? How comfortable is it? How well does it fit? Does it cause your glasses to fog up? Those are all considerations. But again, if you don't use it, it's not going to do any good. And you can't simply just take it off after you've been sanding a lot, because the dust is still in the air, and as soon as you take your mask off, you're going to breathe it. It could be the next step up is going to be something like this Trend Air Shield Pro, costing about $400, or maybe something even nicer, such as a unit like this Sunstrom that's costed about $1,200. The second leg of this 3-legged stool might be something like this air filtration unit. I did a video on air filtration. You might want to check that out if you haven't seen it. But the third leg, and the most expensive, is on dust collection and dust extraction. So let's talk about that now. There are 2 major approaches to dust collection or dust extraction. The first one is the high volume, low pressure system, such as the dust collector I've had for years. I bought it several years before I got into woodturning. This one is from Harbor Freight. They have larger hoses and they have low suction, but they move a high volume of air. These systems require a minimum of 4-inch piping, but they really require a main run of 5 or 6 inches to be truly effective. The system that I designed that used 4-inch sewer and drain pipe was marginal at best. These systems lose efficiency with long runs. They lose efficiency with lots of the more corrugated or coiled hose you use on them, the less effective they're going to be. The efficiency drops off dramatically. My Harbor Freight systems, when I upgraded it to a shaker felt bag, it did okay at the lathe. It did okay with my jointer and planer, which I've since gotten rid of fairly recently because I wasn't using them much and they were just taking up room in my shop. But out of the box with the cloth bags that come with it, it only filtered down to like 5 or 10 microns, which is not nearly enough, because the dangerous dust particles we know are the ones that are one micron or less. So with a shaker felt bag, it was generally okay. It did not do well on my bandsaw. It did not do well on my table saw. Didn't do well on my sander. Didn't do well on my router table. But it did pretty well at the lathe. Now another approach is the high pressure, low volume approach, like used by this cam vac from Record Power. I did an unboxing on that video if you want to check it out. You might think of this kind of system a little bit like a shop vac on steroids, but that's probably not doing it justice. But one of the advantages of it is it works great on power tools, individual power tools with smaller ports on them, like my rigid sander, or even my table saw from Rigid that's got a 2.5 inch port. The high pressure, low volume systems such as this cam vac or a Festool are designed to work with smaller hoses. They can use 4-inch hose, but not quite as effectively, but it doesn't have a terribly dramatic reduction in power when you hook it up to 4-inch hose. Just a few tips about some basic piping issues. It's good to have your long run on a bagging system as a continuous run with a larger pipe. This 4-inch sewer and drain is marginal. The Harbor Freight system I used to have could tolerate a 5-inch main pipe, and it would have increased the flow quite a bit. You want to avoid right angle turns like this. They're not real efficient. A 45-degree Y is better, but you can actually make them better with a couple of if you got to make a right angle, a couple of 45-degree pieces. Plan on having all different types of fittings. For a system where you're connecting it like this to stationary tools, you need a blast gate so you can have only one tool open at a time. These are some shop-made blast gates. Never been real happy with the plastic blast gates because they tend to clog up. You can nip the corners off. You do get some loss, but it's more than offset, I think, by when you close it off, not having it partially open all the time. High velocity, low pressure systems like that bagging unit I used to have do very poorly when you step down from a 4-inch hose down to, say, a 2.5-inch hose on this router. Whereas when you use a high pressure, low volume such as my can vac, it tends to work a whole lot better on this router table than the previous unit. Similarly, with the 2.5-inch inlet on my sander works a lot better with the cam vac system because it's designed to pull in from a smaller opening like this one rather than the 4-inch. It's where it's actually stepped down from a 4-inch to 2.5. Long lengths of corrugated coiled hose do very, very poorly. For example, on my this one on my table saw, but I moved my saw around so I didn't have too many options.
Table saws are just very difficult to collect dust from without having a specialized overhead dust collection. This is just a guard. It doesn't really collect any dust.
When you do connect your dust collector or your stationary tools to a piped system, you want to keep those coiled corrugated hoses as short as possible. For example, here. And for example here on my bandsaw. Bandsaws are notoriously difficult to do dust collection, even one with a lower port and an upper port below the table. Let me show you a trick that I did that improves it a little bit. To better channel the air from where the blade goes through the table, I've created this little from sewer and drain with a slice in it and a little notch to go around the apparatus, a couple of knobs to make it easy to spring around. I can cover the lower bearing assemblies so the dust will just have a kind of a funnel or a chute to go down here to go into the upper level port. This side's up. And then it closes around.
If you're cutting lots of green wood, though, keep in mind that most dust collection systems will not pull in that wood wool that gets stopped. Using a little bristle brush helps you clean it up.
For a small shop like mine with a few stationary tools, keeping the and again this goes back to that Harbor Freight high volume low pressure system, keeping the main run low kept the connecting hoses smaller and didn't have to go up to the ceiling, across the ceiling, which would take a lot longer runs, reducing the effective power. With the high pressure low volume type of system like my CamVac, it's very important that you get the dust collection port as close as possible to your work. This is on my midi lathe. With my main lathe, I use a TrackVac system that mounts on a rail. It makes it easier to maneuver that port low to get the stream of dust off the bottom of the bowl or the inside of the bowl. I covered this in a separate video, this product, if you're interested. Tobacco smoke ranges from 0.01 to 4 microns in size, which means most dust particles are 5 microns or less, which are so small they can't be seen, and they tend to remain suspended in the air for so long that only HEPA filters can take them out. That means that for every piece of dust that you see floating in the air, there are 9 more that are too small for you to see. So I hope this video has given you some useful information. If you are a visitor, please leave a comment below on the one takeaway that you got out of this that you found especially useful. I will be doing a more comprehensive video shortly on my CamVac system now that I've had it a year and I've got some experience with it. I've been tweaking the system and putting it off for a while, and I'm still tweaking the system. But your questions and comments are important to me, so leave them in the comments below. And remember, you only got one pair of lungs, so take care of them. Y'all stay safe and come on back, you hear?